There's reasons why we predicted that Donald Trump was going to be another empire puppet. This is another MAGA war. And I better see every single person who have MAGA pins on their truck enlist and fight and die in this war that you guys supported and enabled.
Yep.
We're not going to die fighting for Israel. And if you let your children die fighting for Israel, you are a failure of a human being. If you're a United States soldier, and if you're going off another land because you want free college, Jaybe, they want free healthcare. I want to kill people overseas because I want to get ahead in life. Don't judge me. I'm a United States soldier. If you go over in Iran and you try to kill people because you want free college, I'm going to laugh at your stupid ass when you come back in a body bag. I don't give a fuck. Like, this is crazy. Do you guys understand how crazy this is? Everyone should be at my level. That's why I had to go live today, because everyone should be at this level right now. We should have a full-fledged war against Zionism and Israel for striking Iran, for plunging the world into never-ending war. Why aren't Americans upset that Benjamin Netanyahu told your ass that we going to war no matter what? He putting out statements in English. Why is Netanyahu giving statements in English, my friends? Because he talking to your ass. He telling you're a goy ass to go on the battlefield and die for Israel once again. And Americans going to fall for it because they too worry about trans people in bathrooms, trans people in sports, as they send their children out to die, fighting for a Zionist genocidal psychopaths, and everyone not on the same level I'm at? What's popping, Jaybe?
What's popping, my friends, my family? Welcome to another week of RBN Live. I've been doing these Monday morning shows. I've been enjoying them. What's popping, my friend? I have my friend Fiorella Isabel, who will be joining us here very soon. And as we speak right now, there are United States assets going to Israel. The United States. I want the RBN community to understand something very, very clearly, because the corporate media is very desperate to paint this picture that Trump is resisting the actions of Israel. But we know better. We know that Israel is an aircraft carrier in the Middle East for the United States, that Israel and the United States is united and they are one. There is nonstop propaganda on our state TV outlets. Some people know them as CNN. Some people know them as MSNBC, Fox News, Washington Post, New York Times, who are desperately making the argument to the American people on why they should support this war against Iran. They can't even pretend, like legitimately, that this has anything to do with us. They will say stuff. And Dana Bash was hosting Mossad News Network Live. And they were doing a segment where they were trying to justify why Americans, they're like, well, Iran could launch a nuclear warhead at American cities and they directly threaten Americans. Like, whenever they say stuff like that, you guys should be offended. Like, people not offended that they think you're that stupid that we have to support a war with Iran. Because if we don't, Iran will randomly launch missiles at American cities. That's what they want us to believe. That Iran will launch a nuclear warhead at Kansas City and strike me in the heart of America, and we don't take out their nuclear stockpile. They are not even being consistent. They don't even know how to sell this war. I saw this before I went live. I saw Glenn highlighted this. According to the Wall Street Journal, Israel is doing what they have to do because Iran has to be forced to negotiate. And now that Israel did what they did, Iran is battered, and now that they want to negotiate. And Iran didn't want to negotiate until Israel and the United States showed Iran that they are willing to go to war. Ignoring the fact that Iran was negotiating as we speak, and Israel did this to destroy the Let's ignore the fact that Iran was actively negotiating. So on one end, they said this had to be done so Iran would negotiate. And then on CNN, So you can see how Washington Post and CNN is covering this. CNN is saying that Iran refuses to negotiate no matter what. You guys see how they can't even get their fucking story straight? Look, here's CNN. Iran rules out negotiations with the U.S. until it completes retaliation against Israel, regional diplomats say. They can't even get their story straight. And this is just another failure of MAGA because Donald Trump has a new talking point that he uses in order to justify never-ending war. Supreme Leader called the negotiations not serious. It was a ploy. You mean the negotiations by the United States? Please clarify, Zoe. I don't know if I'm reading your comment wrong. Did the Supreme Leader call out the fact that the United States and Israel was engaging in a ploy, or that Iran was engaging in a ploy? I think the United States and Israel was engaging in a ploy. Zoe, am I getting that right? But anyway, let me continue my point. Trump, he said that during Ukraine, and now he's saying it now. Trump has a talking point, a new line that he's repeating, where he just says sometimes they have to fight it out. Sometimes they have to fight it out. That's Trump being a defeated and broken man.
Can you give us a sense of what you're doing to try to de-escalate the situation between Iran and Israel?
Well, I hope there's going to be a deal. I think it's time for a deal, and we'll see what happens. But sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens. I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal.
Sometimes we have to fight it out. You guys notice that's the new Trump line in order to justify why he failed to achieve peace. How you doing, Fiorella? Give me a thumbs up when you're ready. I'll introduce you here soon. So Trump, you went to get a Nobel Peace Prize, sir. He ran on ending the Ukraine war in 24 hours. He like, man, you gotta be a failed president if you want to wage war against Iran. Remember when he said that? Under Barack Obama, he said, if you don't negotiate with Iran, you are a failure of a president. It's a sign of a failed presidency. God damn it, I should have grabbed that receipt. I gotta find it. I gotta find that receipt. And now, after he failed to achieve peace, his new talking point is, oh, sometimes you gotta fight out. This is the face and the posture of a defeated man who realized that he can't do nothing in the face of the true rulers of this country, the Zionist mob. We know Trump, he has no interest to fight these people. He had no plan to fight these people. Because you can take this statement multiple ways. Now, and this is my last statement, I'll bring my guest in. I am of the opinion that Trump is working with Netanyahu hand in hand. There is no resistance between the Israeli regime and Iran. What does that say? That said that Trump always planned to abandon his MAGA base. But now let's go with the talking point. Now, that's my opinion. Obvious sellout, obvious piece of shit willing to send Americans to die for Israel. Let's say, and this is the Tucker Carlson code. This is the Candace Owens code, the Ian Carroll code. Let's say that there is tension between Trump and Netanyahu as the mainstream media is portraying. How much of a dumbass does that confirm Donald Trump of being? Because the narrative they want us to believe is that Trump wants peace. But Netanyahu is working against his interest. So he says that after giving Israel supplies and they're okaying a strike on Iran, he said, I still hope that we're going to have peace with Iran after Israel attacked them. So that shows, if you're taking that story at face value, that shows that Trump is a moron who has no idea what he's doing. Like the United States and the Zionist empire is going to okay an attack on Iran. Then they're going to turn to Iran like, hey, man, you want to negotiate now? They're like, fuck you. No, we're not. So if you are someone like Trump who wants to achieve peace, and this is the narrative that they want to sell to the people, Trump in the United States is engaging in the worst strategy to accomplish that, even if that is his stated objective. which is based on the kayfabe story presentation, you have no other choice but to accept that Donald Trump is a failed president who failed to accomplish what he stated to achieve, and that is peace. And that is a deterred Iran. Remember the whole argument about peace through strength? Isn't it interesting how peace through strength failed once again? I ended there. I got a lot to say, but I'm interested in hearing my guests as well. We have amazing journalists, foreign policy analysts, activists, intellectual. Thank you for joining us on RBN. Once again, Fiorella Isabel, thank you for joining us on RBN today.
Thanks for having me, Nick. My voice is a little bit raspy because I'm just getting over something right now. But I'm happy to be here. I had to be here. And I have something else here after today to discuss what's happening in Iran and what the U.S.'s role in it, because it's so important for people to get just different perspectives on it.
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to join. That's why I had to reach out to you immediately. Like you and Nico was all like, man, after this whole thing going on, I had a great show with Nico this weekend. I'm like, man, I definitely gotta get Fiorella. It's been too long. I can't wait to hear your analysis. I'm glad that you've been following the same train of thought I have been. The United States is complicit, and then they are so undisciplined. They lack so much discipline that the Zionists was bragging about it in the media. They couldn't contain them. They're like, don't you know that Trump was actually BSing and we actually had this plan to lower Iran's guard? And apparently, there are people in Iran that fell for it. There are many people who fell for it. What are your thoughts, Fiorella? Do you feel the same? What's your analysis on the United States complicity with these attacks? And your overall reaction, you can also share your reaction to the escalating tensions between Israel and Iran as well. Feel free to take it how you want. Thank you for joining once again, Fiorella.
Yeah, well, I think it's very obvious to anybody who's been paying attention that the United States and Israel are working in cohesion. In fact, the United States and Israel have both, but especially Israel, made it very clear that the objective is to push the Greater Israel Project.
Yeah.
And in fact, when you look at what General Wesley Clark was told about the 7 countries in 5 years, you see that Iran is the last bastion. It is the last man standing there. And Iran is so significant, not just as a powerful military, geopolitical, mighty country, but as the resistance. Iran is the resistance in many ways. It's not the only facet, but it is a major facet of it. And what I think is happening here, the reason Israel attacked is because Iran was going to have this meeting with them in Oman with the United States and try to negotiate something. And in Iran right now, what many people may not know is that there is a sort of politically and a fission, a divide between the liberal contingent that seeks to have more normalized relations with the United States, and then the resistance contingent that wants absolutely no going back to that because they understand where that eventually ends up. And you can see that in the president, Pezeshkian, and at times the foreign minister also as well, and how they push diplomacy even when the United States and co do not deserve such diplomacy. And so what you end up having is a very vulnerable state at that time, which is what I think in part led to Israel being able to infiltrate with the level that it did. However, Iran has survived. It is an old, it's an old nation. It has a history. It has survived. It has thrived. It has had everything thrown on it. So it is not the same as, say, Syria, though I will say that the comparisons are there because people saw how quickly the West was able to utilize what they had to overthrow Bashar al-Assad, even after years of Bashar al-Assad defeating them and being able to contain them. And so when you look at Iran, you see, wow, they're a mighty political power. They have powerful allies, but also there is now this opportunity for the West to come in and attempt to subvert it from the inside, because what the United States, and I think you know this, always tries first is regime change. And they've tried the social justice issue way with Iran by talking about women's rights and so on and so forth. And when they couldn't do it that way, they then have gone on to killing the leadership of Iran. And not just Iran, but we saw, of course, with Hassan Nasrallah in Lebanon. It is across the spectrum of the leadership of the resistance. And one by one, they're trying to eliminate them, because they know if they do, then what's going to happen is you're going to have a weakened state. Excuse me. And so now I think that's where we're at, right? We're seeing that Iran has a decision to make as to how they will react. And you're also seeing how the United States and Israel, because the United States knew, Donald Trump knew, they all knew, they have been salivating to go to war with Iran. And we have the most Zionist administration here, the most Zionist administration in our history, really at the helm.
Yeah, that very great analysis, and I'm glad you were able to join us. I know you're feeling pretty sick, and that's exactly why we had to have you, because you explain these things in multiple dimensions instead of just the 2D lazy analysis we get from the West. And one of the a lazy analysis you would get from places like Al Jazeera and other places were the people who were cheering for regime change in Syria. And you brought up something very interesting, which made me go on this little tangent here, because I saw this earlier. So I had to find it to see. I was trying to find. I'm gonna find some more articles. I'm planning on diving more into this. So this is very unconfirmed right now. To give you guys a heads up, I saw this floating around on Twitter. I will confirm it more officially soon. But apparently, Jelani of Syria has allowed Israel to use Syrian airspace to intercept missiles. Now, this is not confirmed, but this sounds legit, because what did Jelani say as soon as he took power in Syria? He said he want Iran, not the United States, not Israel, but he want Iran to pay reparations because they supported the Assad regime. He wasn't asking for the United States and Israel, who was stealing the wheat, the water, and the natural resources of Syria. That was an immediate red sign that this guy was a Zionist puppet. It still blows my mind. Maybe I'm missing some cultural context or something, but to me, it blows my mind that anyone who supported the resistance, the Free Palestine movement in any capacity would cheer this on. And I see a lot of people who are, to be fair to them, are regretful. I've seen a few people that say, oh man, I regret supporting this regime, but to me, it was 100% obvious. Now, before you reply, I want to get a video, and there's a reason why I'm going down this tangent, because you brought up a great point about there are Iranian liberals in the diaspora. Let me be careful with my words, but their mind has been colonized. That's the nicest thing I can put. That's the nicest way I can put it. They want the United States to overthrow their government. They want Western values to be instilled in their country, because women don't have the right to create OnlyFans accounts, because they want in a McDonald's in Iran. Like, for real, I am not bullshit. I know that may sound fucked up, but their Western feminism destroyed their minds. Like, Western propaganda destroyed their minds, and they want the Iranian regime to fall. And I pray to God, I'm so scared that it doesn't happen. So let me shut up. I'll play this video, and Fiorella, you can respond to everything that we talk about what I said here. But I'm glad, because this woman put out a very base video, pretty much describing my fears as someone who don't live in the region, of Iranian people betraying their own. So let's play the video. It's very short, and then Fiorella, feel free to respond.
Example of how hate will rot your brain from the inside out are Iranian Zionists. Your hatred for the Iranian government outweighs your love for Iran and Iranian people so much that if Mahsa, Nikah, Hadis had been killed by an Israeli bomb, you would sit here justifying it, because you are sitting here and justifying it. And that makes you sick. You're literally sick.
Any response? It's literally crazy to me, Fiorella, that anyone. I will say that as a stupid American, I guess, because I'm lacking cultural. I will admit that I'm an ignorant American, but to me, it's crazy that what I saw in Syria. It's crazy that there's any division in Iran. But Fear, anything you want to respond to on this?
Yeah, I think it's insane when you have been to Iran and you see women without the headscarf, because it's not the whole thing. It's a headscarf that, you know, you're supposed to wear. And in a lot of the restaurants that I was in and a lot of the cafes, women take it off. I mean, it's not even real. That's the thing. It's like, I get so tired of telling people this, including family members, and I've shown videos and it's still like, yeah, but you know, they said they killed this girl, blah blah blah. It's like, well, that didn't really happen, right? Like it's really sad, but I don't think it's as powerful for people in Iran. It's geared towards people outside the West.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is it's like,
yeah,
it's not effective. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a, I don't need to say the name, but I mean, there was an activist who joined Amnesty International. They used to support RBN. They joined Amnesty International. Then on a dime, all of a sudden they started smearing me as an Iranian propagandist. There was Iranian. They're like, oh, you're a fascist, authoritarian adjacent. I'm pretty sure they probably smeared you too. A very jihad adjacent account. And they was Iranian. There's these like liberal Iranian people who are like, they hated. They went from being an RBN supporter, then they hated my guts because I didn't support sanctions on Iran. I spoke out against Western feminism and liberal feminism as a whole. He's like, oh, you just a propagandist of the Iranian regime. I don't want to blow this activist up too much, but that was like my first personal run-in with these people. Ever since then, that was like maybe 2-3 years ago. Ever since then, I was noticing, and these Iranian diaspora people are some of the most unhinged. It's like the Chinese American liberals who hate, like the Gordon Changs of the world. People like that exist for Iran. And I also in my comments mentioned this guy, so I'm gonna bring this clip, and I want us to destroy this propaganda. Cause I saw this clip; it was so lazy. This is what's this guy? Patrick Bet David. I remember Nico went off on this guy one day. To me, just another like Fox News style pundit, another brain dead right winger. You know what I mean? To me, this is Fox News going podcast. You know what I mean? The establishment knew that young white men listen to podcasts more than cable news. So instead of hiring Patrick David as a Fox News anchor, he's got a podcast doing the same shit. It's the same damn thing. So he's here to explain, and I'm transitioning to this because I think it's a great explanation on many of the Iranian American diaspora. And he's explaining why Americans should invest and support war with Iran. I'm gonna play this is 2 minutes. I'm gonna play as much as I can do. This is hard because there's so much bullshit wrapped in, but I'll play and then we chime in.
The person that was born in Iran. Yeah.
See, this is what they always do. This is immediately how they get credibility among white people who want to see Arab countries bombed. I'm from this country, and we want you to overthrow and liberate the people. Anyway, sorry. Let me play, and then I'll let you respond there, but I'll let it play.
As a person that was born in Iran, yes, I can't stand this regime. Yes, they've called, the only thing that's been persistent and consistent is the following. When the Shah was in Iran, did Israel already exist?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
Was Israel causing chaos? Was there war in the Middle East? Let me say this one more time. When Iran was ran by the Shah, what year was the Shah of Iran? What years did he run Iran?
53 through 79. I think.
Okay, 53 is the oil consortium. So 54 is the oil consortium. 41 to 79.
Oh, wow.
Because he started at 21 years old. Young man, right?
I'm going to let it keep playing, but if you guys don't understand the batshit crazy thing he's saying right now, he is yearning for the days of the Shah that was backed by the United States, who had torture black sites, secret police, torture dungeons for the Iranian people. He's describing this era of the reign of terror of the Shah as peaceful. I'm going to let it continue, but you got to see how crazy that is to say.
41 to 79. When did Israel become a nation?
48. Yeah.
Okay, so check this out. Why is it that between 48 to 79, while the Shah was the king of Iran, running Iran, why is it for 31 years there is no major war in the Middle East? Why is that? So to the people that want to say it's all Israel's fault, how come there wasn't that in Iran for 31 years? I'm curious. Answer that question for me. And why is it from 79,
he's killing
when the
it.
mullahs, the Hezbollahs, the IRGC, all these guys,
I'm gonna let it finish, and then Fiorella, you can respond. I'm gonna let the video finish because this is tough. I know.
the Khomeinis, all of them took over. Why has there been chaos in the Middle East since 79? Whose fault is that? America's been consistent. Yes, I know America wanted the oil.
America
from Iran,
has
yes,
been
I know
consistent.
UK wanted it, an MI6 and CIA and all this stuff.
At
And yes,
war.
also I'm aware that the Shah didn't trust Israel. The Shah didn't trust, what.
I'm gonna stop it there. Listen to what he just said. I'm gonna play this part again. What he just said, he is fighting for his life, making this argument. He's like, yeah, the United States has been considering. Yeah, we wanted a little bit of oil. Yeah, we did a little bit of regime change. Yeah, we destabilized a little bit, but we've been consistent. I'm gonna play this part one more time, then I want you to respond, Fiorella. Holy shit!
America's been consistent. Yes, I know America wanted the oil from Iran, and yes, I know UK wanted it, an MI6 and.
The United States has been consistent. I know we wanted the oil. Fiorella, anything you want to respond to, we move on. We don't have to dread on the video too long, but anything you want to add?
Well, I mean, it's just typical because there is like this alternate reality where it's okay for the US, the UK, the Western world to want to intervene in Iran and get away with it. But when they have problems, then it's on them. And the thing is, the reason, I'll answer his question, the reason there was no problems, no wars in Iran, because there were plenty of problems, but there were no wars in Iran going on, is because the US needed Iran to be this way. They needed to control Iran. They needed to have a hold on Iran. And that's why would they have a war with that? That's exactly what they need. And this is why Iran is so important right now. This is why if Iran falls, the resistance falls. And people need to understand that. If Iran falls, the resistance falls. The pretty much what's left, not just to save Palestine and Gaza, but to basically continue the fight against greater Israel, falls. And they know that. In fact, the Abraham Shields Project, which is something that I've written about and talked about, is something that relies on the Gulf states. We're talking about Saudi Arabia, Qatar, all of these countries, Egypt, Jordan, that are being weaponized to be used against Iran, against the resistance. This is part of the greater Israel plan to keep them from doing anything for Gaza, but also allowing the expansion of Israel. And now you have Syria that was collapsed. So now that's it. And Lebanon has been infiltrated, of course, with Mossad, with a lot of intelligence from the West in general. And you have Hezbollah, but Hezbollah isn't the only occupying force there. So you really have a situation where if there is any time for Iran to go after Israel and not stop, it is now. This is it. Because a lot of people like Scott Ritter and others are arguing that having nuclear weapons for Iran is a bad thing and will lead to war. But the reality is, if Iran had nuclear weapons, this whole thing wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't have attacked them. In fact, as long as any country has nuclear weapons, while the United States, the UK, and all of these major warmongering countries have them also, that's the only way they will protect themselves. Because nobody's talking about the Samson option that Israel has on the table. If Iran doesn't do what they say, if they don't come to the negotiating table again after being betrayed, what's going to end up happening is they're going to try to actually go after Iran militarily to a degree of nuclear capacity. And if that happens, it's not just going to be Iran, it's going to be Yemen. It's going to be the entirety of the resistance. So what people need to understand is this is really what people like Patrick Bet-David are out there to do, is to put the onus on Iran, a country that's constantly been attacked, vilified. It has some of the strongest propaganda I have ever witnessed, some of the strongest lies, more than Russia, more than a lot of countries. There's so many lies about Iran that if you go to Iran, you will be blown away by just how far from the truth that is, especially as a woman, as somebody that once would consider myself a feminist. What these people are doing with this bullshit third wave feminism is pretty much allowing that to be weaponized to manufacture consent for war and for killing women, children, and the future abroad, and patting themselves on the back because someone wore jeans a few years ago. In fact, the reason we even have the Islamic Republic is because of the United States meddling. So if you wanted something more left-leaning, the U.S. would have had to not have been involved in the first place. So there's just so much to unpack there with everything that this guy said. And yeah, he is a tool of these people. So
very well said. The way we liberate women is by liberating the working class. You guys understand? We liberate women by liberating the working class. I was one of them. I like cringe thinking about it. You know what I mean? I used to be one of the guys like, I'm a male ally. I'm a male feminist because I supported the idea. You know what I mean? I supported the idea of women be equal, have sisters, mothers, and I supported the idea of feminism. I think most people would when presenting it. And then I grew up. then I got some experience in the world. Then I realized how white feminists, they use the distrust, and how feminism teaches women to distrust men. They use that to smear black men, and they use that to convince white people to lynch black men back in the day when they used to accuse black men of being lustful apes who couldn't help but raping white women. That started from white feminism. And you have imperialism that will justify using not only just rainbow imperialism, but feminism as well. Iran is probably the best example of that that we can find. You know what I mean? People, oh my God, don't you know they are forced to wear headscarves? Which is not even true. Like, it's very easy to get the Western liberal mind to support imperialism. All you gotta do is bring up the fact that they're not feminists. If you want to get liberals to support imperialism in Africa, all you gotta do is bring, hey, do you know Uganda, they got some bill targeting gay people? And all of a sudden liberals are supporting sanctioning Uganda. Like, that's how they do it, guys. And that's why I reject it. I've seen how, like, for example, I've seen how liberal women use feminism as a way to smear Palestinian men as rapists. And then the second day it was confirmed that Israel was engaging in mass rape, those feminists was nowhere to be found. So it's a fraudulent movement. It's a inherently fraudulent ideology. And if you support the idea of women having equal rights, the liberation of women, I think you gotta support the liberation of the working class. You know what I mean? But that's a rant for a whole nother day, because we see how they use that to justify regime change wars. And now the people call for regime change. We'll get back on the Republicans here. You have the entirety. And I was watching it because someone has to report to you guys. Bro, Fox News and CNN was a mental asylum. It still is. The propaganda, especially the day of attacks, it was like the Mossad gave the phone call. Dana Bash was forced to do the anchoring. They had to have the reliable assets. You had Dana Bash, Anderson Cooper, all the reliable assets live right now, and there's no deviation from the talking points. Like, believe it or not, sometimes they will allow like some sort of deviation just to give the illusion. You know what I mean? I'm not giving too much credit. I'm not giving a lot of credit, but you know how sometimes there'll be a little bit of questioning of Israel here and there. No, fam. CNN and Fox News was straight up Mossad news network. No questioning of the Israeli regime at all. I was watching it because it was bizarre. So let me show you this clip, and Fiorella, I want you can feel free to respond. But here's just another example. Here, Fox News. Here, Ted Cruz essentially calling for regime change in Iran, calling for flat out war.
Do you want to see regime change? Do you think that happens soon? And what would the future look like in that regard?
Look, I think it is very much in the interest of America to see regime change. I don't think there's any redeeming the Ayatollah. He is filled with hatred. You know, I'll tell you a story that's a little bit amazing. The former head of the...
I heard the story. It's literally a waste of time. You guys don't have to hear the story. So you guys see Ted Cruz calling for regime change. I'm gonna stop it there for a second time. Fiorella, that story is bullshit. You guys don't have to hear it. Fiorella, any reaction, and what's your response? Have you been following how the news been covering it, their lives? Any response?
Actually, I haven't watched Fox News or CNN in a while, and I agree. Sometimes I watch them to see how ridiculous they are and where they're at. but then I regret it every single time because it's like,
Yeah.
what the hell? But I mean, Ted Cruz is just like, this is why I don't buy that the U.S. isn't working hand in hand with Israel, because you got the likes of Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio, and the entire Miriam Adelson contingent that is in Donald Trump's cabinet. They are so crazy to go to war with Iran. They despise Iran. Iran represents everything they don't like. And for some reason, there's this like Christian Zionism, right? That takes place where they feel like they're so related to the Zionists, and they have this whole thing. Now, granted, there's been a split in the Trump supporters, and some of them have become really anti-Israel for a multitude of reasons. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene has spoken out. You have a few others, and then you have the supporters that are like, well, we're not going to, go with Trump. I can't believe he did this. And I'm like, it was very obvious he was going to do this. This is his role. This is why Donald Trump is president. This is exactly why he's president. He is poised to carry this out and also push Palantir into the spear without the people who are supposedly against the deep state, against any incursions on the First Amendment or the Second Amendment or the Fourth Amendment. And so this is the only way it would happen, is you would have to have the guy that was the pro-peace president that was going to not do what Biden did and that was going to drain the swamp become the guy that literally brings you more war and more surveillance. And they're not going to say a word because it's him and not Joe Biden. And we know the same hypocrisy happens when there's a Democrat in office. We know that a lot of these protesters wouldn't be out in the streets if it was Joe Biden at the helm with ICE. We know that, yes, what Trump's doing is awful and it's taking it a step further for a specific reason. But at the same time, what we're looking at here is the reality that these politicians go hand in hand. They play their roles. And at the end of the day, it's not really about, did Trump want this to happen? This is about them fulfilling their roles and the actual surveillance, military surveillance apparatus working and continuing the objectives from administration to administration and so on and so on. So while there might be a resolution, for example, to the war in Ukraine, as I've said from the beginning, that war is going to shift to Iran and towards China. And that's what we're seeing right now, because that's what the Republicans are here to do. Come a Democrat will swing back over to Russia and Eurasia and whatever the case may be. But that's, people need to stop thinking about it as like Trump's war, Biden's war. Yeah, obviously Trump is the face. But what I'm saying is this was going to happen. And even if Kamala Harris was president, a lot of these morons are saying we'd be at brunch. I mean, it's just peak LA to see these signs. But it's like, yeah, you would be at brunch because you don't get it yet. You don't get what's actually behind all of this.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. Like I don't know why they just tell on themselves like that when they say we will be at.
Because they don't get it. They don't get it.
Yeah, it's crazy that they just tell on themselves. It's very telling that they don't even have a good excuse to tell the American people why they support war with Iran. I've been listening because especially with anything going on, I've been obsessed with how they're going to sell this war. And they are selling this war by saying that Iran is a direct threat to the state of Israel. So in order to stop the threat, we must launch a war with them right now. Fam, Iran, when have they launched an unprovoked act of aggression against another country? It has been generations. Like I know they had the conflict with Iraq in the 80s, but other than that, Iran has not launched attacks on any other countries, as Israel is launching attacks on 6 countries in the last few months. They're attacking their neighbors, but we had to be convinced that we got to support a war with Iran because it's preventive. Preventive war is not supported under international law. Like these are things that the previous generations of the ruling class decided. They didn't attack Hitler, despite the fact that Hitler was doing all the crazy Nazi shit, because they decided at the time preventive wars are not just. And as I said many times before, so I will spare you guys, because I said this many times before, this new generation of the ruling class, they've seen all the reforms that the previous ruling class generation made. And as crazy as the Henry Kissinger generation was, our generation of the ruling class, like, man, I don't know why you guys even bothering to pretend we support these rules of war, international courts. That's why they sanction the international courts. They're in full rebellion of international law. This will be the last Neocon clip I play. This is Lindsey Graham. There's a reason why he's on Face the Nation every Sunday. It's crazy. This motherfucker leaves church, where he allegedly goes. He goes to church, and then immediately goes on Face the Nation to explain to people why we should support bombing another country. Like, isn't that wild? What does that do to your soul? I'm not a religious person, but imagine you go to church, and then right after you leave church, you explain how we gotta kill people right after that. That's Christian Zionists in a nutshell. So this is a short clip. I'm not going to torture you guys that long. I just want you guys to know what our enemies are saying. That's all. Here's Lindsey Graham.
If diplomacy is not successful and we left with the option of force, I would urge President Trump to go all in to make sure that when this operation is over, there's nothing left standing in Iran regarding their nuclear program. If that means providing bombs, provide bombs. If that means flying,
busting bombs,
whatever bombs. If it means flying with Israel, fly with Israel. The worst possible outcome for the world is to take the Iranian nuclear program on and leave it standing. That will be a disaster.
Senator,
literally, the thing is, they're making these declarations, and meanwhile, no one in the world believes them. Like, it's such a sad attempt to just convince a very small segment of the population. This is just for white dudes who vote Republican. Like, they know that there are people who vote Republican who are tired of the wars. Not on any anti-imperialist principle. They're just tired of war, because that's a very human thing to believe. So they're not even trying. So the people who are bombing hospitals, burning children alive, starting wars, sanctioning 1/3 of the war population, the world has to be worried about their enemies getting bombed? Fiorella, please how does this make any sense? Any response?
I just think it's interesting because when you look at the U.S., like youth, right? You look at people still like under 20 or under 25, they don't watch this stuff. And that's why you see so many of them being like, I think, leaning liberal, because they're not getting their news from there. You'll see the pockets getting their news from, like, conservative TikTok and so on, but it's really not that many. And it's interesting to see people like Lindsey Graham. Like, he may sound like a powerful guy, like he has a lot of support, but his way of thinking is finished. Really, it's on the outs. And the majority of people don't feel like that. Even people who support Trump, or even people who support, the right wing, they don't want this. As you said, they don't want more war. They're like, we need to be America first, actually, not Israel first. So even on that, they're losing the PR game. They're losing the battle. And the problem is, on the other side, we have, for example, people protesting the person, Trump, or protesting something without the economic backing. When you talked about the feminist aspect, the problem with that is it's just very superficial. There's no equity in it. There's no economics in it. There's no class in it. And in the U.S., we have two things going on. We had the No Kings protests, right? And then we had protests against the U.S. involvement in Israel's war on Iran, which I would say it's not even a war. It's an attempt to annihilate Iran based on their protection of Palestine and Gaza, and their retaliation. Very justified. I mean, the entire world, let's be real, has been cheering for Iran. I have friends who aren't even political that are like, wow, this is so great. Go Iran. Because everybody has seen what Israel has done, and they can't hide that anymore. So it's almost like pathetic watching people like Lindsey Graham and others just get on mainstream media because they can, because they own it, and just start spewing a bunch of things that people don't agree with, because everybody else is cheering for Iran. Everybody wants Iran to finish Israel. A lot of people do. Realistically, by that I mean they want Iran to save Gaza. They want Iran to prevent Israel from continuing their onslaught. They want Iran to prevent Israel from continuing to attack their neighbors every other day, whether it was Syria before, now Lebanon, right before they attacked Israel, Gaza also in the days during the time that Iran has attacked Israel. The people in Gaza and the people in Palestine haven't been bombed. And that's the reality. And so this is why people are cheering for it. And it's not just political people like us. It's not just pundits on any show. It's literally regular people who are watching this and like, yeah, well, Israel did this, so why are they upset? I think people are getting a little bit more aware of things, and that's why they're so afraid. And that's why they want to manufacture consent for war. And that's why people like you and I, who are millennials, who actually saw a bit of the war in Iraq, we can kind of recognize it. But people who are younger, I think it's our job to like explain to them, because my sister was born in 2003, so she doesn't remember the war in Iraq at all.
Yeah,
but she can still understand that Palestine is what's happening there is a genocide. What Israel's doing is wrong, and that generation is continuing to fight. So I think these people are on the outs, and they're just desperate, to be honest.
Yeah, and I saw someone talking about this. I think it's a very poignant point. Think about what the Zionists what they took from us. Think about what the Zionists reduced us to cheering for. Like, think about what Zionists have done to humanity. Because the idea of me cheering bomb dropping on a city just 10 years ago was that incomprehensible. Like, I would never care about that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, I saw the footage of the bomb falling from Tehran. Meanwhile, like, yeah, nigga, get their ass. Meanwhile, everyone on the timeline, bro, it was a party. It was a party. You have a ton of people who they start off in politics being anti-war. I'm anti-war. I hate the idea of people dying in war. Meanwhile, there's nothing that made me happier than seeing Tel Aviv bombed. But that,
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you there. Like, I agree with you. I've always been anti-war. I am not anti-resistance. I am not anti the ability of the oppressed to fight back. There is such a thing as armed resistance that people in the West, a lot of the shit libs, a lot of the neoliberals, or the lefties that are always saying, "Oh, all wars are bad." Some libertarians too. They're like, "Oh no, we're against all wars." There's a difference between being an anti-imperialist and being a pacifist.
Absolutely.
Pacifism will lead us to get killed, will lead the oppressed people to their death. You have to fight back. It is your right. The law is on your side. International law is on your side. The reality, the moral good is on your side. When you are being oppressed and you have no choice but to fight back, that is what you do. And you are very well in your right to do that. And if you don't do that, you will be eliminated and you will die. And what people need to understand is that in West Asia, in the Middle East, as we call it, the idea of martyrdom is a proud thing. The idea of dying for something greater than yourself, for an ideology, they are willing to do it because they know it's the right thing to do. And that mindset is diametrically opposed to the mindset of just pragmatism and practicality and survival. There is this idea that even if we are going to lose, we're going to go down fighting because it's the right thing to do. And I think that there is a lack of understanding of this very concept in the I would say Western leftists who still say, well, Yemen shouldn't do this, or Iran shouldn't do that, or look what Iran has done.
They will say stuff like, is it worth it? Like they will say stuff like, was anything Hamas did, was it worth it? Like, it's not even you can tell by the questions they ask. Like, that's such a great point, Fiorella. Was it worth it? Is it even worth it? Like, you can tell the difference in mentality. Like, I couldn't possibly say it better myself, Fiorella. Couldn't possibly say it better.
Yeah,
sorry, you was cooking. You was cooking there. I'm
it's
gonna
just
get.
a
Go
different.
ahead.
It's just a different way of thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't say better myself, so I'm gonna leave it there. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I have one more segment I want to do. We can keep this around an hour, but the one more segment I absolutely want to do. Let me wrap this one up quickly, because we were just talking about how Americans are turning against this war, and there's a civil war going on in MAGA. I showed you guys many corporate media outlets. They was reporting on the MAGA civil war, and they were surprised. Like, meanwhile, to us, it's not surprising because we've seen the American people shift away towards war. To me, it's more surprising they keep convincing people who are anti-war to vote for these people. And we will see what the next wave of Ian Carrolls will pull off. Because I'm shocked that people like Ian Carroll pulled the MAGA shit off. Like, as I know you were doing it too, but people like me, you, Nico, we was calling the Ian Carroll, Dave Smith grifters out. Because I can't believe you guys are still doing this. Like, still convincing people to support the warmongering duopoly because they think some reality game show host is going to be different. So the reason why I pulled this headline is because why do you guys think they reported this headline? This headline is for the Ian Carrolls of the world. This headline is for the Tucker Carlsons so they can maintain hope. Because you know what Tucker Carlson's saying. Tucker Carlson, according to him, Trump is being manipulated, Fiorella. It had nothing to do with Trump and what he wants. Trump is being manipulated by the warmongers in his cabinet. Tucker Carlson, he has no problem with Trump. It's the people in his cabinet. So stories like this, guys, I need everyone in the RBN community to understand this. This story is leaked for a reason. Why did the Trump administration leak this to the media when the Trump administration is notoriously anti-leak? They hate leakers, but they leaked this story. They leaked the story about how Trump vetoed Israeli proposal to assassinate the Iranian leader, which means this story is meant to lure back in the MAGA people leaving Trump because they see him getting to the war. They want to give the illusion that Trump is fighting and resisting Netanyahu. And we know that is not true at RBN. So as the dumb leftists at the majority report, TYT, Jake, like, oh my God, do you know Trump and Netanyahu having a split? You know, Jake, you're going to say that. But we are smart enough to know that it's a complicated psyop, and this headline is only designed for MAGA chugs that in code mode. I was about to show this tweet. You referenced it earlier. I kind of speed running through some receipts real quick, Fiorella. But this is the tweet you referenced earlier where Marjorie Taylor Greene, I just read it for the like this. It's classic MAGA cope because as much as I want to praise Marjorie Taylor Greene for saying this, she's still pretending that there is a anti-war America first. I'm going to read a little bit of it because I'm trying to speed up for a second time. Everyone is finding out who are the real American first and MAGA and who were fake. Ma'am, I appreciate the sentiment, but you realize that you was the fake one in the America First movement, right? So for all the people like Tucker Carlson and them that said, there's a fake America First movement that want to go to war. Ma'am and sir, you was the fake one. MAGA and America First never represented that. But Fiorella, before I continue my receipts, anything you want to add quickly before I continue?
No, just continue and I'll add at the end.
Yes, sure. So Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, unfortunately, the list of fakers are being quite long and expose them so quickly. The delusion of Marjorie Taylor Greene that she believes that she has more pull and influence than Laura Loomer. Because Laura Loomer, who I think Trump still had the hots for, she's all for war with Iran. She's all supporting the genocide in Gaza. That's why MAGA supported. So people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'm sorry, I don't want to shit on her while she's saying something decent, but she is delusional in thinking that there's this infighting between MAGA. There's an online infighting. There's MAGA influencers that are fighting each other. But among the institutionalized MAGA, the MAGA with power, absolutely no infighting. So I'm going to read a little bit more of the tweet and I'll let you respond. Anyone slobbering for the U.S. to become involved in the Israel-Iran war is not America First or MAGA. So will you admit that Trump isn't? Will you admit that Trump isn't MAGA? She would never. Then the last part I'll read because this part is good. So I'm trying to be easy because I don't want to show her too much because it's a good statement, but I still don't like it. And you guys see I'm a hard ass. Wishing for murder of innocent people is disgusting. We are sick and tired of foreign wars, all of them. So I ended there because a lot of it just pretty much saying the same thing. Any reaction, Fiorella, on about the MAGA Civil War? Do you agree or disagree with me? Feel free to put back if you don't agree with my analysis. Anything you want to add, Fiorella?
I mean, I think there is like a divide in MAGA in terms of what the people they think are divided. Like you have Marjorie Taylor Greene, as I mentioned, she's being vocally against Israel. So is like, what's that guy? The Nick guy.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's just like a bunch of them that are saying, oh, you know, Trump is a sellout. Like they're going further. They're calling Trump a sellout. They're against him.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when it comes down to core values, they still align the same way. So it's kind of like it almost feels a little bit like
I hear you.
fake in many ways. Like
Yeah, I hear you.
I don't think you're gonna see her fully go after Trump the same way you're not gonna see Tucker. I think I saw like some sort of article talking about how Tucker and Trump are at it now. So first it was Bibi and Trump, then it was Trump and Elon. Now it's Trump and Tucker. You see how this goes? It's like, oh, we're all feuding here, but at the end of the day, they're not. It's just like when the Democrats are feuding. You saw, what's this? The senator? I think he's a senator now. Padilla from California. He used to be the mayor, and then he used to be much lesser roles, but he was getting carried out for protesting. And Gavin Newsom, they take advantage of these situations to postulate a certain narrative and to put themselves out there for some sort of political maneuver. And the thing is, it's not that genuine because, you know, at the end of the day, they're going to go back to their party. I still think that, you know, it's interesting to see her say it. It's interesting to see because she has been one of the ones that has kind of gone on the outlier for some time now. And in some ways, she's been kind of funny watching her against AOCIA, who like, you know, is like worse in my opinion. So like you see this sort of kind of like theatrical display of the geopolitics of these characters, and then you realize like they're not really in charge. They're just like I think some of them don't even know how to react to what's going on because they don't have the power that we think they do. We think that they have a lot of power, and I don't really think they actually do. And I think a lot of their work is like narrative management, is PR, is like getting out there and telling people what they want to hear or presenting a scenario where there's some sort of bad cop, good cop. And I think that's what we're seeing here with a lot of the MAGA. I do think there's a split, but I don't think it's, as you said, I think it's more so in the social media aspect. At the end of the day, the Trump supporters are still supporting Trump. Otherwise, they're not Trump supporters anymore. So, it's interesting.
Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene, they gave her the green light to say whatever she wants. For whatever reason, I know why, but for whatever reason, I say that because it's a theory. They let Marjorie Taylor Greene speak out against Ukraine. They let her speak out against Israeli wars. The same reason why they allow Alex Jones to speak out against stuff. Because Marjorie Taylor Greene will also talk about how they're Jewish space lasers. you know what I mean? So they allow Marjorie Taylor Greene to say stuff so Democrats can say, wait, you don't support the Ukraine war? You're on the same side as Marjorie Taylor Greene? That's the same reason why they let Matt Gaetz speak out against the Ukraine war. Don't you know that Matt Gaetz is a sex pest? You agree with Matt Gaetz? Guys, that's why they allow Marjorie Taylor Greene to say this stuff, because her reputation, she was sent to be the bomb thrower. Now she like everyone had this like when Marjorie Taylor Greene come up, so they're like, we allow you to take good positions, so they can tie. They will say, oh, Fiorella Isabel and Nick Cruz, we are an example of the horseshoe theory because we had the same positions as Marjorie Taylor Greene. So that's why that exists, by the way. They allow one idiot to tell the truth to try to make us all look bad. Once again, it's just a theory. I have nothing concrete to prove it, but I am 100% positive that's her role. One more quick rundown of some headlines, because with Fiorella, just like Nico, we can talk all day. I kind of ran behind. I'm gonna read a few more headlines, then we get out here, Fiorella. Always great conversation. Always great having you on. The headline is I'm talking about war reactions. So I'm gonna just quickly show you a few headlines quickly. The UK this is being confirmed because I saw Russia before my last stream. I saw a Russian official accuse UK of helping Israel fight the war with Iran. Now Starmer is confirming the military buildup. I will cover this more in detail and kind of speed run through some receipts. I'm thinking about doing a hotspot video on this. We see. I'll do my first hotspot next tomorrow, so I may do a hotspot video on this because Starmer is officially getting UK involved in this conflict. And regarding how many countries in the Middle East are responding to Israel's attack on Iran, it essentially amounts to Middle Eastern countries and Arab countries sending Israel a sternly written letter. That's essentially what they did. And I've been asking this question, why are African countries more passionate, more infuriated by the crimes of the Israeli regime than fucking Arab countries? They make me sick. Like Jordan shooting down Iranian missiles to defend Israel. So all the Arabs, they condemn them. They're like, oh, we need to calm down and de-escalate tensions. What are you talking about, de-escalation? The fuck you talking about? You have Israel that's carrying out a genocide of the Palestinian people, attacking Lebanon, invading Syria, stealing their resources. And the Middle Eastern countries are talking about de-escalation? I want to accept pushback on my position here, but I think this is bullshit. And I'm very upset at the Arab countries who sold out the Palestinian people. I know there are arguments to be made, like, oh, Nick, don't you know they gotta look after the people? They gotta maintain peace. At this point, man, they are complicit. You know what I mean? I'm not. Go ahead. Share your opinion too.
I was just gonna say, nobody should be surprised. They're complicit. That's their duty. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Jordan, Egypt. For a long time, they've been controlled by Israel, by the West. They are very much like what you said in the beginning, like a lot of these, the Gusanos from Cuba, Venezuela, the Latin Americans that support regime change in their countries, the people in Iran that support regime change in their countries. This whole thing is a colonized mind. And when you have a colonized mind, they think that the impetus and in the input of the West is going to favor them, when at the end of the day, it's not. And they'll still play along and say, okay, well, we support a Palestinian state, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, their actions show their support for the Zionist regime. And the people who are part of the resistance see this and they know this, and they almost have an anger at them more because they should know better. They should be better, but they're not. They're equally as vile or worse than the West because they should be on the side of their own people. So it is a huge betrayal. And this is something I've seen all over Latin America, all over many countries, Russia. Like, there's all sorts of people that think that there's a superiority with Europeans, with Americans, and even people who are suspect of them are not as suspect as somebody that's grown up and seen the empire from the inside out, like us. I am far more against Western, I'm far more suspect against Americans and Westerners and any Russian, Lebanese, like all of these people that I've met. They're just not there. They still give them the benefit of the doubt. And I think this is something that needs to be looked out for. And I think it'll take some time to decolonize the mind in that aspect.
Don't worry, Fiorella. They're going to file a complaint at the UN. That's their plan. The Arab countries watching their people be slaughtered by Israel. They're literally watching greater Israel being built. And they're like, we're going to file a complaint at the UN. We're going to call for de-escalation. Get the fuck out of here. I'm glad that I was like, man, I don't know if Fiorella, I'm glad that you at least shared my opinion on this. Because my anger is growing at these Arab countries, man. Like, I have a very strong responsibility, and I feel that's why I do the coverage I do. That's why I advocate the way I do as Americans. It's our responsibility to fight the Zionist regime that our taxpayer money go towards, and I take that very seriously. So I see people in the Middle East. It's like your region, bro, and you siding with the Zion. It's so disgusting. That's why you guys see I had to put back against Shahid Bolson the way I did. We wasn't planning that argument and debate because I find it very disgusting. You know what I mean? And something I can't really let pass. And let's see, this is by comparison, this is why they hate Maduro. Because Nicolas Maduro, he straight up saying, man, Netanyahu is a fucking Hitler. I'm never working with fucking Benjamin Netanyahu. The same with North Korea, who developed a nuke that was smart. They said that Israel is Satan. They would never do business with Israel. Now you guys see why they hate the DPRK in North Korea? Meanwhile, the homie Lula, you gotta do better, man. Like Lula talks all this shit. Lula be like, I think Israel's carrying out a new genocide. Meanwhile, he's still providing energy to Israel.
Nick,
I like Lula. A lot of things Lula does, but he also full of shit on a lot of things. I think he's one of the leaders that say good things about Israel, but he's too weak at the end of the day. I don't hate Lula, but I gotta give him criticism where it deserves, and this is one of them. I'll read the headline now. I'll let you respond. Just for people only listening, the headline I pulled up here is Brazilian oil trade unions urge Lula to impose energy embargo on Israel. So go ahead, Fiorella. I just want to read that.
I agree with you on Lula, and the thing is, China still has a relationship with Israel, in terms of trade. So does Russia. There's that cultural relationship as well as this geopolitical relationship, which is why you're seeing the U.S. reach out to Russia in favor to mediate relations with Iran. And so, you could talk about these major countries, all of them doing more to stand against Israel, and they all very well could. Nobody's saying they need to actually go on the ground and go after Israel physically. That would be great, but that's not where these countries are at. They're pragmatic. They're focused on their own issues, especially Russia right now. But that doesn't mean there can't be an economic blockade, and there isn't. And that says a lot as to where the reality of the world is at. Because people talk about multipolarity. And for me, it's like multipolarity is happening in the sense of there's more powers rising. You have the rise of China, the rise of Russia, the rise of elements of the global south, but you still have, that doesn't mean you have equity. You still don't have equity. It doesn't mean that countries or peoples like the Palestinians are free and are being offered justice, or the Haitians aren't being vilified and offered justice. It doesn't mean equity. And I think a lot of people thought it would mean equity. And I think a lot of people think China and Russia are going to come and save the day. And I don't think it's like that. Like, being on this side of the world, you start seeing how countries operate in a very pragmatic fashion, especially trying to protect their own interests, which is normal in those terms, to increase their outreach economically, their trade, their just their effect on the world in general. And so that's understandable. But when it comes to a situation like this modern day Holocaust, everybody could do more. And I think it's fair to say that no matter how much you deify all these countries and all these leaders, I think it's important to say when it comes to Israel, they're not going to stop unless they are stopped. And if we look to Yemen, if we look to Iran, at the very least, we could do something that targets their economic sectors to cripple them from doing what they're doing.
Yeah, very well said. I think criticisms of China and Russia and Brazil regarding doing more against Israel are legitimate. It's very legitimate criticism. You guys don't hear it a lot from me though, because I am usually careful when I make the criticism. Because as an American, I can't, like, how can we as Americans beat up the Chinese people for not opposing Zionism enough? You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it is America in the West that is fueling the Zionist regime. So to me, it's kind of in bad taste when you have America like, why isn't Xi Jinping doing more to resist Israel? Nigga, you in America. So you guys see why I'm very careful with that critique. But I do think the critique is legitimate though. So there are two minds that we gotta have. You can't be an American wishing for Russia, China, and Brazil to bail you out of your Zionism problem. But at the same time, people in Palestine and people who are pissed at them enabling Israel, they are legit. Sorry for keeping you a little bit longer than I planned, Fiorella. There's one more thing I do want to get your opinion on, because we talked about this on the timeline. This will be the absolute last thing I will ask you. I promise you. I'm sorry we went a little bit longer, because we actually did talk about this a little bit on the timeline. And obviously, we got to be very careful when we talk about religion in the Israel-Palestine issue. But we are at the point, and there are a lot of people having this conversation now. And there's only one reason I'm bringing this up. I'm bringing this up because of Jewish institutions. Because we know that Israel does not represent Jewish people. But when you have Judaism and their institutions coming out en masse in support of forever war in the Middle East, at what point, I'm just asking this question theoretically, at what point is Judaism forever cursed? At what point is it ruined as a religion? Because you have 95% of Jewish people supporting burning children alive. So let me read the headline. I'm gonna be quick. I'm gonna cover this more in detail. I'm gonna get your thoughts on this because we talk about this on Twitter a little bit. Jewish organizations show wall-to-wall support for Israel's strike on Iran. And I said in a rant on RBN last week how I love my anti-Zionist Jewish brothers and sisters, but I feel like us asking you to cut these genocidal monsters off is not asking for too much. And I feel like we need to have a conversation about the rot of the Jewish institution. But anyway, I'll give you last thoughts. We'll wrap up out of your last thoughts here, I promise. What's your thoughts on this? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'm saying this is horrific. When I'm saying the Jewish organizations and institutions. And I'll put some receipts like, bro, I'm not talking about small institutions. I'm talking about the Jewish Federation of North America. The Jewish Federation of New East. I'm talking about giant Jewish institutions. I'm not picking on a small mom and pop shop. So I want to get your thoughts on this. We wrap on this tight, but I think Jewish institutions have forever cursed Judaism after what they support in Israel. Any final thoughts, Fiorella?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very hard. I mean, if anybody is to blame for people uniting what's Judaism with Zionism is for Zionists themselves. It's their fault. I mean, the reality is, at the end of the day, my experience has been Jewish organizations that are even supportive of Palestine still don't go far enough because they don't want to break with that aspect of Israel. They still believe that they have the right, to live there, that they still believe that they have the right to exist. They still, have oftentimes occupy the spaces and the platforms that should go to Palestinians. I'm sorry, but I'm sick of seeing like all the Jewish commentators, all the Jewish journalists speak on behalf of Palestine and not seeing the Palestinians, the Lebanese, the Iranians, and not the same people, but more people who are on the ground, people who have had family members killed. We go to the same literal 6 Jewish journalists, and we have to be honest that our media, our industry, and I have no qualms about saying this, entertainment, all sorts of industries, writing, academia is all occupied by a lot of Jewish influenced ideology. And even people who mean well, at the end of the day, are given a space and the voice to do it more than the Palestinians. It's almost like Palestinians have to have the justification and the permission of the Jewish voices in order to justify what they're saying. It kind of feels like when I'm a woman and I'm like trying to say something and a man has to say it. For all those people that, don't understand that, it really doesn't sit well with me. And I've seen David Miller talk about it at length many times. And I think people should look to his work to see, how this is, because it's not about hating Jewish people, but it is about understanding that connection is still there and how to go past it and how to really actually be an ally to allow Palestinians and people of West Asia, the Middle East, to speak out for themselves and not necessarily need the justification of these voices. And what you pointed out, I think, is an important conversation because, again, on social media, which is the reason we even had that discussion, you see that happening, and you see a lot of their ideas of the Palestinian people's ideas or the people of the regions being completely overshadowed by, ex-Jewish commentators' opinion on it because they're pro-Palestine. It's like, yeah, okay, but, let these people say what they need to say. So that's all I got to say about that. It is an issue that I you don't care about.
And that's a very great point, because I will see viral tweets where it'll be they will say Jewish activists say that Palestinians have the right to defend themselves, and it will go viral, and it's a good sentiment. But it's like, why does it have to be a Jewish person saying that? You know what I mean? So that's to what your point earlier, how it's almost like Jewish allies have to get permission for Palestinians to say stuff, and it kind of irks. It kind of annoying, isn't it? And I see that 100% as well. But we're about 1 hour and 15 minutes in. It's always great having you on, Fiorella, and getting your inputs. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to plug and promote? You guys know I've been enjoying doing these Nick and Monday morning shows. Nick in the morning on Mondays. So great to have you back on Fiorella. Anything you want to shout out, promote, anything like that?
Yeah, y'all check out my Substack. I am doing a special podcast there with my colleague, Vanessa Beeley. I'm also doing Truthwire next with Pasta Jardula and Matt Weinglass from the Homeless Left. They're really great. Matt's on the ground in LA right now. And yeah, just check out my Substack, my X, my Telegram. X is Fiorella Isabel M. Telegram is Fiorella in Moscow, and Substack is Fiorella Isabel. I have 3 articles coming up, so be sure to check those out, and just follow me on Rumble as well and YouTube. Thank you so much, Nick, for having me on.
Yeah, it's always great having you on. We're gonna have Dr. Sabrina on in a few days. We're still nailing down the exact time. Dr. Sabrina will be returning. Also, I have a new series we're working on right now. With my brothers at Hotspot, Nico House and David Hadayan, the writer from West African Weekly. We're planning on doing a live stream show together, all 3 of the Hotspot content creators. I think we're planning on debuting this Friday around 12 p.m. Eastern time. Me, David Hadayan, and Nico. I'm looking forward to that. So that's Friday. That's gonna be probably a new reoccurring show. Me and my Hotspot brothers. So that's gonna be on Friday. Dr. Sabrina will be announced soon. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys check out Fiorella Isabel on Substack. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Take care.